overcoming loneliness post-breakup is pretty tricky. Sure, it is possible, even if it sometimes doesn't feel like it, but it is a long and somewhat difficult process, emotionally speaking. What does it really come down to? Well, in my opinion, following a set of semi-interconnected principles. So let me go over them, and hopefully you can leverage them to overcome any of your post-breakup loneliness. Starting with principle number 1, lean on your support system. Very important. A support system is essentially a group of friends, family members, and peers that you trust and feel safe with, and who will actively listen to your concerns, give heartfelt advice, and consistent, support, even when you're being a dick or when you're wallowing in your own self-pity. As far as how to lean on a support system, it's pretty simple. Hang out with the people in it more than usual, especially in times of crisis, of really intense emotion. Maybe you have the urge to reach out to your ex when they told you to stay the hell away from them. Call up your buddies instead. Maybe you wanna get batshit drunk to feel less lonely. Help a peer with a work project instead. Maybe you feel like doing this gnarly flip off a bridge. Talk to your mom first. That's what I mean. Moving on to principle number 2, leverage breakup recovery groups. Meaning, find some decent breakup recovery groups and join them. The bigger, more participatory and active a group is, the better. And I want you to look especially for groups that incorporate some activities like, for example, dancing, hiking, swimming, or gymnastics, in addition to just your average discussions, because those groups are proven to help you feel less alone way faster than groups where everyone just sits around doing nothing. Now, if you don't have any real-life groups available, try online groups. It's not exactly the same as real-life groups, sure, but it is better than nothing. It is better than you being stuck alone in your room for the entirety of the day. As for principle number 3, improve your social skills. So naturally, just getting into a recovery group, it isn't enough to get you to stop feeling lonely. You also have to talk to the people in it. And this is where social skills come in. Social skills allow us to build deep emotional connections with others. Connections that can then gradually, slowly evolve into meaningful friendships, and then those meaningful friendships obviously helps us feel way less lonely. It's as simple as that. So learn how to be more outgoing, how to have small talk, how to elicit an emotional response from someone, or how to simply be better in storytelling and relating to people. These are just a few ideas to play around with. And once you get them in order, once you essentially get your social skills basics in order, it's time to get vulnerable. And this kind of brings me to principle number 4, which is all about daring to be vulnerable. Now, to define it, vulnerability, when I say be vulnerable, this refers to your ability to open up, to speak your mind, to share things about yourself and your life, even when it feels uncomfortable, even when it feels awkward, and even if it feels embarrassing. To share all of this without expecting any specific response or a response in general in return. So this is when you, to put it another way, share what you feel and think unconditionally. Now, there's no way you will ever build a deep and meaningful emotional connection with a person or with people in your recovery group or those outside it without learning how to be vulnerable. So I urge you, practice it religiously. Start right now. After, of course, you're done watching this video. So moving on to principle 5, have the right intentions. Also, a very important point, because look, many people, they approach their breakup recovery groups with the wrong intentions. Instead of thinking, how can I help others, they think, how can I just get others to help me? Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing bad about wanting advice or a listening ear. However, if that's your only intention in joining a recovery group, you're doing everyone, including yourself, a giant disservice. Because by focusing only on yourself and your wants, you are missing out on this really great opportunity to connect with the other people in your group. And if you fail to connect with them, hey, you'll also fail to overcome some of your loneliness because you will not be forming any deep bonds or friendships. Therefore, approach your breakup recovery group with a giver's mindset. In time, you will see that the more you give, the more you help others, the more they will give and help you. And when that reciprocity starts to kick in, guaranteed, you will feel less lonely. Now let's move on to principle 6. Keep perspective in mind. The theory goes that every feeling is fleeting. So as you would guess, the same applies to loneliness, the same principle. Sure, it's way quicker when you're proactively working towards overcoming it. That makes sense, right? It goes away sooner when you actually try to overcome it, when you put some effort into the whole process. This is very true. But even if you don't do anything special, anything at all perhaps, loneliness still withers away on its own most of the time. So don't really obsess about speeding up this process too much. That said, just be careful not to slow it down. This is the trap most people fall into. They begin stalking their ex. They begin chasing and pursuing them obsessively. They begin begging and pleading with them for another shot. And all of this only amplifies one's loneliness. And granted your ex is unreceptive, which is the case for most people, these behaviors will only intensify your loneliness. So just keep that in mind. Now moving on to our final principle. Principle number 7. Learn to simply enjoy the solitude. This is a bit of a counterintuitive point, but hear me out. There comes a time where you just won't be reachable by your support system. There comes a time when you won't be able to just fall back on your recovery groups, the people in them, whatever. There comes a time when it's only you with yourself. And as unorthodox as it sounds, this can actually be a really good thing. Granted, you bend your perspective the right way. You see, most people, they fear solitude. They get anxious and they get worried when thinking about it even, and they obsessively retaliate against it. And as a result, they make literally everything worse for themselves. However, there is another way to approach dealing with solitude. You find a way to actually enjoy it. How do you do this? By altering the meaning you ascribe to it. So let me unpack this for you. Sure, you could think of solitude as something scary, something shitty, something you should avoid, like a painful source of loneliness. Or you could think of solitude as an opportunity for personal growth, as an enlightening time of reflection, per se, a time in which you can focus on how to not screw up your next relationship, or a time where you can focus on what kind of a partner you are really looking for. Put another way, you could try and neurotically fend off loneliness, or you could just embrace and learn from it instead. Of course, adopt the latter perspective. It's going to be way more beneficial for your mental health. With that out of the way, if you guys want to get deeper into my work on breakup recovery, if you want to learn how to stop obsessing over your ex, download my recovery cheat sheet, link below this video in the description. And with that said, bye bye.